Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar from SpeedLegal. We have Aishwarya here today.
Hi
Hi, Aishwarya.
everyone. Good to be here.
So this is kind of a new type of podcast webinar, live webinar. Can we call it part of Rethinking Legal Ops, Aishwarya, or is something else?
Yeah, we can call it Rethinking Legal Ops for non-lawyers.
For non-lawyers, nice. So today I'm not part of Speed Legal. Today I'm a student. I'm actually a student approaching a big company, Amazon, and I'm gonna go and do an internship for them, and that's how I started actually as a financial analyst. So we are gonna go through my experience through my first contract. I mean, not really an employment contract, but let's say a real contract, and and we're gonna go through, of course, some of the key points. Aishwarya is gonna probably ask me some questions, and then we are gonna also dissect the contract. For those like me, at that time I didn't know much about contracts. Now I know a bit more, and we can also see if there were potential red flags, and hopefully this will be helpful with for other people like me and like you looking for a job or unfortunately maybe leaving a company, and you want to know what you have signed and what are your rights. So hopefully we can help you with that, and also we will show you a bit how tech can help you with that, which is what SpeedLegal is working on. And hopefully next time we will have someone else, not me, and we will be happy to to show you around and give you some feedback on your contracts.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this. And just to, at the outset for all our viewers right now, I just want to clarify and, and the sake of full transparency, we're not your lawyers, we're not your attorneys. This is an educational event, so take everything we say with a grain of salt, and use your own judgment. This is just for education purposes, based on things we've read and seen about the way employment contracts work.
Yes, we are not giving legal advice. Cool.
Hey, let's jump in. So, Hansel, just to at the beginning, I actually have a few questions for you because I usually am like very curious to talk about like people that like have not gone to law school or are not attorneys or don't really have much to do with law. Of course, in your case, that's not entirely true. You've dealt with contracts, but when you received your internship letter, like what contract, what were the things that you were thinking about? Were you what were like the first few things coming to your mind? Were you even thinking about the contract that you had to sign for your internship, or were you just excited about the work?
Yeah, very good question. Actually, I was super excited because, of course, working at a big company, it's nice. I mean, it's good for your CV, your resume, and also I had friends who worked there, and they told me it's a good environment. So I was super excited. The contract came paper version to my place, which is a bit odd. I mean, not odd, but now we are mostly used to you know e-signature providers and stuff. But yeah, so I actually went through the contract diligently. I spent probably some time, hours, um, and and yeah, so I actually read the contract specifically line by line. It's not a very long contract, but I remember taking some notes and going back to the HR asking some questions. So happy to tell you more about that later. But yeah, so I actually read the contract.
Wow, you did more than what most interns do. I don't even remember reading my first internship letter. I think I was just so excited. It's like I just want to go get the work started. And then there's also like for common for like students to feel a little bit like, oh, it's such a big company, such a big opportunity. What if I ask questions, and they just rescind the offer? They don't want to talk to me again. Did you have any of those feelings, or were you not worried about that?
Um, Yeah, actually, it was. I think. Yeah, I had a friend, or I think it was or maybe a family member who told me, "Yeah, I mean, you're not gonna have any power anyways against them. So why are you doing that?" And and I was like, "Well, I'm putting my name on this. I want to know what's going on. I always have options in life. Of course, Amazon is a big company, but it's not. I'm not bound to them for life. So I want to know what I'm signing."
Great. I think you put it very well. Like, I want to know what I'm signing, and like I'm putting my name on it. So of course, like, I want to be careful. I think that's so important to remember, no matter how big the company is or how big the opportunity is. And did you what were the things that you looked for when you were taking notes and reviewing this contract?
Yeah, very good question. So let me quickly open my contract, but let's see. Well, actually, I can share my screen if you guys want, so you know what kind of the contract looks like. Let's see. Um, so as you can see, let's see. Okay, cool. We're here. It's not a super long contract. It's 6-page contract. But yeah, for sure, I mostly look at actually I knew the salary, so I just want to double check that it's correct, and um, you know things that uh, um, actually I stumble upon the confidential information, which is important, I guess. That part, determination, and if I have any paid leave or any vacation, these kind of things. So those are the main things that I at the beginning with the first skimming through the contract. It was the key. I would say the first thing I look at the contract.
That makes sense. I think those are like I flagged down all the key clauses. I personally always go and look at like confidentiality, like non-compete, like termination, like paid time, and all of that. So I think those are all like very key clauses. When you were looking at the confidentiality clause, what was the risk that you were thinking about? Like, what did you want to find in it?
Yeah, very good point. So I think I remember that there was something about, yeah, I've been doing startups and little projects before Amazon, right? So I was a bit concerned about that. Like, can I still do my stuff on the side, some side gigs and stuff? Um, and so that was my concern. I'm not sure if there is a non-compete because I just checked the contract, but maybe there was some language within the confidentiality about non-compete. So, but yeah, that was kind of my concern. Like, can I do other things in the meantime? Yeah.
Yeah, a very valid concern, and I think sort of like going back to your point that you made, like you're not bound to Amazon for life, right? Like you're not working with them forever. So it's so important to sort of think about at the end of these 3 months or at the end of my contract with this company, what is my future going to look like? And I think that's the perspective that we review most contracts with because they are building that relationship for that specific period, but could have an impact later on as well. And we'll get into like the specific language within your contract that could potentially stop you from working on side gigs. But with like confidentiality, some of these clauses they look fairly standard, but then they can have language that is like so overbroad. It could, and confidentiality for like all the viewers is basically they're telling you not to share any of the information that you learned during your internship with anyone else outside. And usually it is for the term of the contract, like, like say like 3 month internship periods. Like you're not supposed to go say reveal anything you learned during that time. And usually for interns, they wouldn't really reveal any sensitive business information to you or like their proprietary knowledge to you. So after that, usually you're not as bound, but then there is some level of confidentiality that you'll have to maintain. Like if you looked at any of Amazon's client data, then you can't like go and reveal that outside. And if you're not careful in reading that contract, it could be so overbroad that it actually prevents you from working for another company that could do similar types of work as Amazon could have similar clients. You may have seen these, little like pointers, like when you're doing applications, like have you worked with any of our competitors before? Have you worked with a similar company before? Have you worked with any of our clients, potential clients, before they ask you to disclose those things? So it's very important to look at both confidentiality and non-compete. And non-compete in California, it's not even a thing, but not a lot of
Yeah,
people know that. Like they're not enforceable in California. But they
that's
are
interesting. Yeah.
in some states. Yeah, yeah. So
In
a lot
California,
of
basically, you can work for a competitor, correct?
yeah. So non-compete is like you cannot work with someone that has like a direct conflict of interest. It's like a competing business, things like that.
Mm.
And they can really prevent someone's ability to like switch jobs. But in California, they're not enforceable. There are states in which
Yeah.
they are, but here you know in my knowledge, you shouldn't have to worry as much about non-competes, but definitely look twice if you see non-compete in your contract. Sort of moving on to my next question, and you already said like you spent a couple of hours sort of like going through this document and like understanding it yourself. But did you consider talking to a lawyer, or did you go to like a family or a friend, who knows someone about something about law, or like went to law school before you signed this?
Yeah, I mean, I would have loved to to ask you, actually, or someone like you. At that time, I didn't have many law friends studying law, and I think I asked my brother. That's because I trust him. I mean, he's not a lawyer. He studied economics, so but just to have a feedback on something. But yeah, I think having a friend who studied law or is studying law. Or if they are lawyers, that's the best, right? And yeah, again, I would have loved to ask you if I had known you, but yeah, or maybe use a tool like SpeedLegal, which is something that we are working on. But yeah, that's a very good question.
Yeah, and I think it's a perfect segue into my next question as well. Like, could you have used, if you could pay a little bit of money, could you have used an AI tool? And if so, like as a student, given your
Mm.
economic situation at that time, not now, things are different now, but at that time, how much money would you have paid for it, or would you have been
Mm.
okay paying any money for a service
Very
like?
good question. The answer is yes. Maybe not a lot, but probably I would say at that time $50, up to $50 for that contract. Potentially more, but again, I didn't have much bargaining power, but I would have loved to know, some of the key risks, as you mentioned, non-compete, confidentiality, if they're kind of standard, and any other red flags. So yeah,
Makes sense. And why do you, in your mind, why do you think that 50 euros or $50 would have been worthwhile to pay for a
well,
service like this?
probably more. But again, it's a number that I throw there um, based on my availability. Also the contract itself, it's internship letter. By paying rent and everything doesn't leave you much actually, and also by again the fact that I really wanted to work for them, so I probably wouldn't spend like 2K on that contract, 1K. But I think a reasonable amount would be probably up to 100, even 200 bucks. But yeah, a good deal would be $50 to me.
That makes sense. And like 50 bucks is like, that's like I think three Ubers in the Bay Area, because like Bay Area pricing for everything is ridiculous. Or
Yes,
like
yeah,
I think three dinners, or maybe even two dinners, like because like everything's at least like 16, $17, and it's not a prohibitive price. Like I think when we think about it, like the value it will have for like the future. Yeah, yeah. But
true.
I now want to like like let's maybe go back in time. We're in 2014. They're about to sign this agreement, and somehow speed legal exists,
Mm,
and you've now paid your $50.
yeah,
Let's see what it tells you and how
cool.
that helps.
Let me quickly share my screen. I had the opportunity to upload it on SpeedLegal, as I just said. So, um, okay, going back to the screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, you
Cool.
zoom in slightly.
Yeah, okay, I will very soon. Okay. So basically, this is the contract. This has been uploaded on SpeedLegal, and this is how it looks. So SpeedLegal is giving you the risk meter, which is a ratio between what's green, what's red, and I see that it's kind of balanced. So first of all, I want to go and see what's red, and I see one of the top things at the top are the paid time off. Intern is not entitled to paid leave. I mean, it's understandable for an intern, but it's good to know that basically for these 6 months or plus, I'm not entitled to that. Quickly skimming through the contract nutrition level, which is our core technology, speed legal core technology. I'm still a student, kidding. But anyways, so here you will see basically the key risks and what I can do, what I cannot do, and what are the risks I can go I can get a fine basically. So in plain English, I understand that breaking confidentiality rules, yeah, that's important. So I know that probably I will check the confidentiality clause, potentially going in depth and reading that clause. That uh, would be very useful. So just by clicking here and see the confidential information and spending some time here.
And very quickly also, at the beginning we were talking about, like, you were not sure whether you'd be able to do your side gigs and things like that alongside this. Does the nutrition label or this red flag label, does it show you, does it give you an answer to that question?
Totally, yeah. Yeah, I see several red flags here. The choice of law and some other benefits that are not there. These are less important, but it's good to know that I could have had more pointers in this, like sponsor for visa and so forth. Of course, maybe I cannot ask that for an internship, but it's good to know that. So yes, definitely.
So let's maybe go through the contract nutrition label and see what, like, your obligations were, and like could you do other work alongside this.
Yeah.
That's quite an answer.
So let me finish on the bad things because I'm really scared about that. So engaging in business or work that has a conflict of interest with Amazon. So interesting. So I believe this means that I cannot do engaging in business. So I cannot start or maybe work or maybe partner with other businesses um, that is kind of conflicting with Amazon, which is pretty broad. But yeah, I think it's that's why it's a red flag potentially.
Yeah. And were you, at the time, your other startup ideas and side gigs you were doing, was anything related to any sort of like marketplaces or like, any sort of sales? Were you working on an idea like that at the time?
Very good point. Actually, we started. Well, I'm not sure if I can say this, but yeah, we were thinking starting doing stuff on the e-commerce space. So, well, not like Amazon, but we were thinking about selling stuff online. I mean, a specific kind of shoe. It's a brand that we then started. But yeah, again, so potentially reading at this, someone would may think, oh, maybe you are conflicting with the terms. So that's a very good point.
Yeah, yeah. It's the idea that you have. You could not have, implementing that idea could potentially, based on this language
Mm.
entirely, could have potentially been a problem. You might have gotten either fired or sued or something like that. So that's
Yeah.
not a great
So
term.
again, I think the value here is at least knowing that, right? Because you may not be able to really push back on this, but you could definitely know the risks and therefore, advertise a bit less what you're doing during your maybe.
Or just do it 6 months later, right? Like you just,
Correct.
like
Yeah.
you just learn about the e-commerce space, and then you just go run with your idea later, so that you don't unintentionally get fired for, just innocently working on your idea because you're thinking,
Mm.
I'm just doing my thing. But then, like, someone from your boss comes in and say, oh, you're violating the internship agreement, you're now fired. You're just like, wait, what did I do wrong? And then you go into your contract and you're like, oh, that's why.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah. I believe knowing is better than not knowing, especially when it's on paper. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Cool. So, who's bound? Amazon and myself. Great. What do I need to do? What do you need to do? Yeah. So, what do I need to do? Okay. As Amazon, let's go to myself first. Maybe as myself, I need to comply with confidentiality requirements. Okay, we spoke about that. Do not engage in business or work that has a conflict with interest with Amazon. Yeah, we spoke about that. Perfect. Comply with Amazon's rules. Generic, and I'd love to know the rules, and maybe I can find them here, which is great. Return to Amazon all correspondence and records at the end of the ship. That makes sense. So let me check about rules quickly. Yeah, so there are some rules, which is great. So and I know that it's products for internet. Yeah, perfect. So I know that I have to go on Amazon policies and procedures. I think there was another attachment or probably another, addendum, and or just on the website probably. Cool. And next, the rights. So what can I do? I can get reimbursement for reasonable expenses, and I can get my monthly compensation, which is good. Cool. Yeah, I think this is great actually. I mean, I hope that, well, and then I can see also payment terms, end of each calendar month, effective date, and end of the contract, and contract value and so forth. I think this is pretty good. I mean, I would love to have seen this in the past, and yeah, I mean, thank you so much, Esvera, to help me. Also explaining the concepts that we have seen here, and hopefully these points were also useful for others like me in the similar situation.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. I think it was. Thank you for opening up your your own internship letter contract and like showing to people and really talking through some of the things that like you think are like standard, but then they could have consequences for you. Like just the one about don't engage in any business that conflicts with Amazon. You're thinking, sure, I mean I won't, but then you could have an idea you're working on. You could be working on a research project or something, and because the wording is so broad, like you don't really know
Mhm.
what it is exactly. So you might want to speak to someone that knows about employment contracts a little bit more. Or you might want to go like research that, or like look at like other sort of resources, or just like think through in your head one more time, like what are things I'm working on, and then maybe I can go tell my boss like this is what I'm working on. Just have that sort of like that's for sort of like transparency. We also have, some interesting comments from our audience here, and like some of the students are just asking about, were you when you tried to reach out to your HR at Amazon, was there any sort of pushback, or were they kind in the way they responded to you? Like, does HR want to hear back from interns when they send them a contract, or do they expect you to just sign and not talk too much about it?
Yeah, very good question. Thank you for asking this. Actually, yeah, they were a bit surprised, and they said, it's pretty standard. Don't worry. And they were a bit, yeah, surprised about my questions. But yeah, actually, now that I remember, then she explained me a bit of the background. So she was actually kind, and yeah, so actually it was a good experience overall. But yeah, there was a bit of surprise there. Mm.
Yeah, that makes sense. And like in my experience as well, when I've reached out to like previous employers, like they've been kind about explaining things, because it's not that they want to hide anything from you. It's more just how legal documents are constructed. They're not constructed in a way that's conducive to open and clear communication, which is why I think tools like this are important in like simplifying, first of all, this complex document, so people could just like talk like, hey, what can I do, like, are you okay with me doing this, and like they could be like yes, no, whatever, because everyone's just trying to work together. We have another interesting comment here. It says that like it's like, especially with regards to non-competes or things that talk about conflict of interest, it's actually very logical that your next job would be in the same industry as the
Mm.
one that you're interning in, or like your first job,
Mm.
or whatever. So it's very likely you might go and work with a competitor next. And so that's why it's so important for students um, to understand. And non-compete clauses, in my limited knowledge, they do affect that ability to go work for like a direct competitor next. But in California, that's really something that's they're not really enforceable, and most California employers don't even expect that out of you. And is non-compete enforceable in India? In my knowledge, to very very limited extent. It's not as overbroad as it is, in my knowledge, in some of the U.S. states, but to some limited extent, I think Indian employers, I think you have to get an NOC, as we call it in
Mm.
India, like a no objection certificate from your employee, and then you can like go work for your next employer. So there is that slight complication. So it's something that you always want to look into and maybe talk about with your next employer, and maybe use that as a negotiation point. It's like, hey, we want to work together, but could you waive this requirement because I did work at this different company, or something of that sort, and really talk to them about the issue. Because when I was working in India, this was I was working between different law firms, and law firms, like competitors. So when moving from one to another, there's no harsh feelings there, but then they're also very protective about all the work they've been doing, the clients that they've been working with. So it's something that you should have a conversation with your new employer, and then you should also go and have a very open conversation with your previous employer. Say that I've got this job offer, I'm thinking of switching. There's this requirement. How can you help me navigate that? So basically, just clear and simple communication.
Nice, Israel. Thank you so much. So basically, it's better to have an open conversation. You're saying instead of keeping things for yourself, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think the way legal documents are drafted, it encourages people to not talk about things that really matter, right? Like in my mind, legal documents create these relationships. A contract is creating a relationship between two people, and every other relationship in your life, it's based on clear communication. Like with your friends, say if you only talk to your friends in these cryptic words and none of you understood what the other was saying and you just kind of went along with it, it's not going to be a lasting or even a healthy relationship with that friend.
Correct.
Similarly with employers, with business partners, you sign documents, you don't understand them, they don't understand them, you're just kind of going along, and that's just a recipe for future conflict. So simplify your documents, and as a result, go have simple and clear communication. Save everyone time.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Nigeria. I really, yeah, I believe in everything you said, and hopefully we can make this helpful and useful for someone else next time. So if you're in the audience and you're ask some questions, thank you for asking them, and feel free to raise your hand, and we're happy to welcome here next time and share your contract. We will do it for free for you, of course. Maybe with me, with Ashveria, with some other legal experts and creatives, part of our expert committee or nice network that we have gathered in the past months. Thanks also to the podcast. And yeah, I mean, another thing I want to add, just finishing here, I also went through my lease contracts recently, right? Because I'm, of course, I changed places, and it took me like a long time going through that, like the rental agreement in San Francisco. And the landlord was like, "You're the first person asking me so many questions." And I was like, "What's that?" And I messaging screenshots of the contract. She was like, "That's like that." I mean, it has been like this for years. I don't even know about that provision that you're mentioning about, you know, um, some specific materials in the walls and stuff. And I was really concerned about that. So, anyways, if you have that kind of contracts, lease agreements, feel free to join us. We are open to that as well.
Yeah, and on the expert committee, we have attorneys that actually practice in California as well. So if you're in California, it could be super, super relevant to you. But of course, take these webinars as an educational tool.
Yeah,
We're not giving you legal advice. But
correct.
check out SpeedLegal. Check out other legal designers' work that are simplifying documents. And yeah, stay informed and go talk to people. Communication is key to everything.
Yeah, understand contracts in seconds. Um, Not legal advice, but better contracts for everyone. Thank you so much, Ashveria. Have a good rest of the day, and see you next time.
Thank you for having me. This is wonderful. And
Thank
thanks
you.
for starting the Sunsfall. I think this is a great movement.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Have a good day.